item is the approval of the consent agenda. We have any comments?
I'll move to approve.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda's, okay. Okay, Julie, the next topic is correspondence. I believe we have 2 items tonight.
We do. The first is on page 12. This is a thank you note from Mary Ann Cornelius, the city clerk, and this is for allowing use of the library for a voting precinct, which occurred in May for special election. And then the second letter on page 13 is a thank you from Director of Library Services from the Flint Public Library, Kay Schwartz. We actually gave the library staff there a tour of the Novi Library. They're looking at some possible renovation and changes in their community in the future, and they appreciated the tour and the opportunity to see our new facility and what we're doing with our services. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, next topic is presentations. We do have one tonight. Like to welcome to the podium our friends of the Novi Library, and like to mention also joining is Sue Johnson, who was recently unanimously voted as the new president of the Friends. She's here to present a special gift to the Novi Public Library.
We'd like to present a check for $25,000 for next year for your wish list, the director's wish list, and for the ongoing annual programs that we support for you every year. And in addition, we would like to thank Willie for his superb handling of our election.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for everything you do. Please, thank you.
I'm just going to say a couple words if you don't mind. I just wanted to say something very quickly about our friends. They had their annual meeting last week, and this year I just want to say how amazing they have been as partners. Hopefully, I know it's online already, but tomorrow the Novi News will carry a very nice thank you to the entire board and to the Friends in general as a group, because they continue each year to support us in some amazing ways with programs and technology and services that we're able to provide to our library, from our library, and to our patrons, all because of their amazing support and being fantastic partners for us and with us. They have been in existence over 50 years. And it's been such an amazing partnership and friendship. And I also want to just thank Pat Brunette, who has just stepped down as the Friends president, for his amazing leadership the last few years. It's been just an honor to work with you, Pat, and a pleasure as well. You've done such a great job. You have a fantastic team of volunteers. Sue came on and became part of that, and now here she is the president. And I do believe that's because of your leadership. And now we look forward to working with her as well. So I appreciate the time you've given us over the many years. I know that you're not going far away, that you'll stay involved. But it sure is great to have these partners with us all the time, working for our library and really working for the community. Everything they do ends up as a result of their hard work giving back to the community through library programs and services. So I thank you very much.
Trustee Stern.
Yeah, if I could just say something. I want to welcome you, Sue, as president of the Friends. We look forward to working with you and the Friends as always. And I really want to thank Pat for his work as president last year. And just remember that it was Pat that got me involved in the library 18 years ago. Thanks, Pat.
I want to commend Pat because I remember that he called me to bring some diverse members in your committee, and I remember we talked about that, and you were the first one who talked to me about that, and I really commend for that I don't know whether you try to get it somebody in the board or not, but I appreciate the way actually your thinking was to get some diverse people there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And board, and I think everybody in the board thanks you for all the great work that you've done over the years, so thank you again.
Thanks for all your support. You guys have been terrific.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. So next topic on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to approach the board with anything they'd like to share. We simply ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Seeing none, we go to the next topic, President's Report. Julie?
Okay. For the most part, the goals document has been completed. There will just be a few things that will probably get added with a little bit of June still to go. But I have met with my management team, have asked them to add anything additional to the document to give you as much of an update as possible, knowing that you use this for annual purposes as well. And I have just a few things that I want to point out to you. On page 16, at the top, you'll see at the very bottom of the first box, there's a number of notations for Thornton Creek, Village Oaks, a number of schools and tours, and you'll see large numbers. And that's because we did our summer reading reach out to the schools and talking about summer reading. Actually, this past Monday, summer reading kicked off, and we had hundreds of kids in the building signing up and taking part and getting ready to read with us through the summer. So just wanted to add those notations about the school visits and how we're reaching out to the schools. And I also want to, at this time, thank the Novi Community School District. Without them, you know, and giving and opening their doors and giving us the opportunity to come in and speak to the kids and let them know about summer reading, it's been such a wonderful partnership with them. And they also now are a partner with us when it comes to promoting summer reading. So not only you know, do they allow us to come in, but they actually have some of their media specialists involved in our programming and in our skits that help promote the summer reading program. I don't know if you noticed in last week's Novi News, which I did put in the packet, the superintendent of schools, Dr. Matthews, wrote a beautiful article about reading and making sure that kids read through the summer and to visit the library, and I truly appreciate him and that support. I think when you work together like that, you just continue to build great relationships, and obviously we're reaching out to all of our students and all of our children this summer. Just down a couple more, in about the middle of the page, I just wanted to let you know about a program that's going to be occurring tomorrow night. It's called Earth Angels 50s Music Dance Performance, and that'll be tomorrow evening on June 19th at 7 p.m. at the library, and that is planned to be a patio program. So we are trying to utilize our patio when it comes to the nice weather, and hopefully it won't be too hot and we can keep away from the rain and we'll be able to enjoy it outdoors. If not, we will use our large meeting room inside as our backup. But this is a way to kick off summer reading and all the great programming that we will have throughout the summer. Continuing on, if we go to page 21, at the very bottom, I just wanted to highlight that I did get a final on our fundraiser for On the Road, and that was successfully $800 that was raised for the On the Road program. And that's us taking people on buses and taking them to unique locations here in our great state and around the area for them to get a little bit of learning and culture and an opportunity to be with the library for an event. And a huge thank you goes to Margie Karp-Operer, our Assistant Director of Public Services, and our always wonderful volunteer Kathy Crawford, who they actually host the event and they host the On the Road. It's not only educational but also entertaining if you go on this trip with them for the day. So that was another success. And then following to the very last page of goals would be page 24. And just two things to note. In the middle of the section, which is under possible services that can be worked with the city, we are going to be going out for a bid for janitorial services that was up, and that's taking place right now. We actually did tours this week of a number of companies that will be putting in bids. So that's just an opportunity showing that we do work with and definitely add on to the city's services when we can in order to save money and to also then try and get better costs when it comes to doing that as a larger bid process. And then at the very bottom, one of the updates for you as board members is all of the policies that you've either reviewed and approved from changes for the past year or new ones that were added. Those are all documented as well. So you worked really hard this year in helping me make some changes and good guidelines for the library, and I thank you for that. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Is that you, trustee Rama?
Yeah.
Okay.
About the policies, we are saying, what is our policy about the weapon-free zone in the library?
We don't have a policy that is related to that. The libraries do not follow under the policy where it is an open, you can have open weapon, and public libraries are not under the same jurisdiction as schools. So we don't have a policy
So if
that.
somebody brings weapons, so what you will do?
You can have a concealed weapon in the library. We've not had the situation, for the most part, when we have, people have let us know ahead of time, and they've brought their attention to us that they're in the building.
You know, there's one library in the Michigan, somebody went there with a weapon, and then they asked him to go out as well, and afterwards they called the police also.
Correct.
So my point is, if that type of situation comes, how you will handle?
Well, you know, people are allowed to. I mean, by law, they're allowed to. We ask that if people will announce themselves or work with us, that way we can, if someone does have a concern, we will be able to work with them and let them know that we're aware of it. It's better to know, I think, is the best policy. And in the past, when we've had people announce it, you know, they've been willing to be in the building and there not be an issue, but they make us aware of it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes. Trustee.
Just if I could comment on that, it's my understanding that right now you cannot prohibit that in
That
a
is correct.
library, although there is some discussion in the legislature right now or at some committee level in
Yes.
terms of changing that.
It is.
But right now, I don't think you can prohibit that as.
That is
a state.
correct.
Yeah.
And I know specifically Baldwin, Kalamazoo, and the Capital Area District Library in Lansing, those are three libraries specifically that have had concerns in the past, and they have started raising that awareness with the legislation over the last few months. So I do follow it regularly. I also do make Chief Malloy aware of that. In fact, the current incident that occurred in Kalamazoo, I made sure he was aware of all of that information when it occurred, and I received the alert.
Julie, is there any update on the city's phone system progress?
We have not, because it's not new fiscal year, I know that they're going to follow through with it. It's been approved. But in terms of what our costs will be at this time, we have not had that. We are trying to get a meeting with our Suntel company in order to figure out those costs.
Any other questions? Okay, next topic on the agenda, treasurer's report. See, trustee Checkeye is not here today, but trustee Margolis has said that he would be willing to give his perspective on the numbers.
As was conveyed to us by Carl Johnson, we will be getting quarterly portfolio information. So we have updated information of the portfolio as of the most recent quarter, March 31st. Obviously, we've got 2 weeks to go for the next quarter, so we won't see that probably for another month or so. Again, the city's policy is to mark to market, so there are investment gains or losses that are funneled through our revenue and expense summary as it relates to the portfolio. And we've expressed our sentiment that yield and risk tolerance, but, you know, finding that right balance is important to us. But anything they can, they have stated that they will work with us to try and get a little better yield than we've gotten so far. To reiterate where we are Budget-wise, on page 25 and 26 is a recap of the approved budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2014, where the board authorized up to $481,100 of fund balance draw to cover any operating deficits. And the reason I bring that up is that if you look at the revenues and expenses for the 11 months through May 31st, we've now, expenditures have now exceeded revenues for the first time, and therefore we are allocating $43,455.49 of that 481 to stay within tolerance here. With 11 months under our belt, that represents roughly 91.67% of the budget with 1 month to go. So if we average monthly expenditures of $250,000, and we've been doing a little bit better, but the months that we have 3 pay periods, we sometimes approach that, and we've got a $43,000 deficit through 11 months. It seems to me that we should be coming in well below the 481 that was authorized. So that is nothing to get excited about, but on the other hand, it's money not spent that will then carry forward for future needs. Revenues versus expenditures, we've now exceeded our revenues by 1.7%. The one thing that, again, I've gone on ad nauseum, so I'm not going to pile on anymore. But for the current month of May, we show a deficit of roughly $162,000. But if you look at the balance sheet on page 36, the revenues and expenditures change is $173,000. So that implies that there were retro period adjustments of $11,679 that were charged to prior periods. So on a cumulative basis, we're at that $43,000 deficit. Again, using a benchmark of 91.67% for 11 months, the personnel and services category, we've only used 87.12% of the budget. Under materials and supplies, 84.86% of the budget. Services and charges, however, 93.19%. Add up all the expenditures together, it's only 87.43% of the budget, so we're tracking successfully. Some of the unusual variances that we talked about earlier or previously, we got more state aid received than we had originally budgeted for. So we had budgeted for 20 and we received 30. Good things. The one thing that we couldn't budget for was the investment gain or loss, and we budgeted 0. It's 21,000 to the good. Absent that 21,000 book entry, our true operating deficit would be 65,000. So just throw that out there. With respect to meeting room rentals, and when we get into the statistics, you'll see that we've had the largest number of participants in the month of May, and we had budgeted 15,000 for the year, and we're already over 25,000 with a month to go. Again, good things. In terms of the operating expenses and where we have saved or not spent, the biggest category is in temporary salaries. And again, kudos go to administrative and supervisory staff for allocating the resources accordingly. What else did I notice? With respect to category 734.000, computer software and licensing, where we budgeted 88,000 for the year, we've only spent 61,000 and change so far, so that's gone ahead of collection. Anything else of significance? No, I'm gonna say that's about it. Moving on to Fund 269, the Walker Fund. There will be further conversation about that.
Before we leave
Okay.
268, I just want to point out, and I'm sure all the board members did notice this, but under the property tax revenue, you see now that it's broken down more detailed by property tax, current levy, the county chargebacks, the tribunals. It's actually breaking that down now for you. And that was something that Carl, our head of finance from the city, had said that was going to be new so that we could see some of that money and the way it was coming in for us. So wanted to point that out. And that'll be a consistent thing now on our reports.
What'll be better is if we don't have any significant chargebacks in June, so that we actually stay ahead of budget.
Yes.
But we can't control that.
No, we can't.
Okay.
It sure is nice to know though where the money is now though. You see where it's, pay attention more.
With respect to the Walker Fund, same thing, if you go to reconcile the revenues and expenditures versus the current period versus the year-to-date, there's another $1,249 gain on the market fluctuations that actually worked in our favor. One of the items that we're going to talk about is simplifying all of the restricted fund balance accounts that we have, and I won't steal the thunder from Julie, but she'll discuss the rationale for the simplification, but it was fairly clean. There was not a whole lot of activity during the month. Most of the investment revenue came in the UBS fund. And those are my cursory observations.
Thank you. Any comments? Trustee String?
I have a couple questions, and I guess this is just like a lawyer trying to figure out what accounting's all about. I guess my first question, and that would either be to Julie or to David, if you have an answer, that has to do with the unrealized gain based on the market conditions. And I look at this for this particular month of May. If I understand this, we made $11,670 for this month based on unrealized gain.
With a retro adjustment buried in there also.
With some retro adjustment, that's true. Now, if I take that 11,670 gain, and I'm just looking for this month's activity, taking it to the end of the income statement, showing that for this particular month, we had revenues of $29,113.75. We had expenditures of $191,001.16. So in essence, we spent $161,887.41. I'm trying to understand in my mind if
No, we spent the 191.
Oh, excuse me.
Right,
We
right.
we spent
We
the.
were credited with the 29,000.
Yes.
So in effect, it netted down to the 161.
Yes.
We spent the 191, so we were, with a credit, it was 160, but that's within the unrealized gain of $11,000. So from a not an accrual basis, but from a strictly cash basis, we really were negative 172
Yes.
this month.
Yes.
Yep.
Which is why I said on a year-to-date basis, we're short 43,455.
Okay.
But the year-to-date investment gain is 21,730, so you really need to add the two together.
Okay.
Our cash burn is 65.
Right.
Gotcha. And I was,
But on paper,
Yeah.
the value of the portfolio reduced it by a third.
okay, thank you. I have a second question, if I can tolerate the board, or the board can tolerate me for my question. As I understand this, then, year-to-date, we have spent $43,455.49 more than we have taken in year to date.
Correct.
And I would expect that to be coming out of the fund balance. But the fund balance shows zero taken out of it. And I don't know, so I kind of don't know where that,
No. On page 36, you look at the bottom, it says beginning fund balance, 2,113,292, then the line below it says net revenue and expenditures is a negative 43,455.
Yeah. So they take it.
well, I guess I'm looking at the appropriation of fund balance on this unnumbered page in revenues and expenditures dated 6/13.
They won't take it out until the end, they never do, out of, if you're looking at, oh gosh, what, yeah. How come-
I mean, it's
It
the
would be
revenues and expenditures
Page
for the month.
32, they don't ever show it coming out of that fund balance line. I know what you're talking about, Mark. They don't
It's
show
on the
it.
top of that, of
Yes.
the second of 3 pages.
Right, they won't actually take it out until the very end of the year. That's the one time when we'll see it, is at the very end. So, as soon as the July numbers through the 30th are completed, then you'll see an actual fund
Well,
balance amount.
which makes me wonder if you really took all the columns in that category, would they add up?
They do, because I have.
Where's the number come from? It's just like, it's a negative number. Where does it come from if it's not taken out of a line item?
Well, the decline in your
Show it at the bottom.
assets was, during the month, was 199,000. You agreed that we just spent 172. So in effect, the decline in the value includes, okay, the 172 included the $11,000 book entry.
For the unrealized gain.
So
I
it's
understand.
really, in terms of, if you net it back to the 161, and you compare that against the 199 reduction of the asset value, you've got most of it accounted for. It just depletes. It's not funded. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
I mean, I'm
And they
just
won't show
thinking,
it till the
and
end of the
I've
year.
been too lazy to add up the numbers, but when it says, the total of the revenues and the total of expenditure, you would think all those numbers
You would
add up.
think, but
Okay, I'm just trying, I always said, in my mind, would think that number is gonna show kind of a 43,455.49 entry.
Up there,
To make
right.
the numbers at the end add up.
yeah,
Okay, that's why lawyers shouldn't be accountants, I guess.
well, but also what isn't shown during the month is that the $33,000 of current tax receivable was eliminated. So again, they do like the Prego spaghetti. It's all in the jar. They don't tell you
okay.
the exact breakdown of the ingredients.
Okay, well, I'm used to kind of adding up all the ingredients. that kind of
Believe
how
me,
they follow.
so was I, when I'm saying your previous month, year-to-date, plus the current month should extend to
Okay,
your current.
Okay, that's,
But they
okay.
don't operate that way.
Okay, that's fine, it was just, I was,
But,
trying to do a little check and balance
no,
there.
you did it
But you're
right.
absolutely right.
But the reality is that we budgeted for spending $2,975,000 in all of the various categories. For 11 months, we've spent $2.6 million. That leaves authorized to spend $375,000.
Yes.
We haven't had a burn rate of any month at $300,000.
Correct.
We've approached it a couple times.
And you won't.
So I'm saying with fair certainty, we won't have to have a special meeting here to amend the authorization of the budget.
Correct.
And it almost seems like we will spend around $100,000 less
That's
than
the-
we were budgeted.
That's the expectation.
Based on a normal expenditure, Julie doesn't go shopping or something this month.
No shopping.
No, but what concerns me is we will convene a month from now, and we'll have preliminary numbers, and we're gonna have that expectation.
you'll have-
And then 2 months later, when the audit gets completed, there's gonna be a $50,000-$60,000 retro change
Right.
that we hadn't contemplated, and we thought we had 100 and we only had 40. Hey, as long as we don't exceed
Correct.
our authorization,
Correct.
we did it with our eyes open.
Yes.
Now, and I gotta give you the credit, at the finance committee level, trustee Stirring said, listen, we're doing a good job of managing the active budgets. Current year, and then we do a 2-year forward look. But the burn rate is significant. I mean, we're spending $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Eventually, you can't sustain that. We need to have a game plan in place if revenues, triggered mostly by taxes,
Right.
do not return back to former numbers. And if we're gonna be capped at around $3 million, we gotta look seriously about how we allocate those future budgets. So, you raise a very good point. I don't have an immediate answer, but in the short term, when we sat a year ago and we set the budget for this year, and we said 481 is the most we will go, you've lived within those constraints. Doesn't mean we wanna have to spend it, but
Yep.
you did.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, next topic, excuse me. Director's report, Julie. I guess directors report and additional reports, because I know you typically like to
And
go through
additions,
both
right?
and-
Right.
both at the same time, so go right ahead.
So the first thing just in my report to address is the driver's license verification policy. We will not need to move forward with that, and that is due to that pertaining only to a CDL, and currently the van that we own does not require a CDL for driving, so we won't have to have a policy in place. So we won't have to have any conversation related to that potential policy in the future. The next thing is Finance Committee. I'll actually wait and I'll hold off on that until that part of the meeting. But I'm very excited to let you know that 2 of the 3 read boxes have been installed. ITC Park was installed on June 11th, and Lakeshore Park was installed on June 4th. So they are up and running. We've made deliveries already, and I can tell you that we are filling those boxes, which means people are taking them and enjoying the books that are inside and reading for the summer. Our last box will be installed on June 26th, and that's in Rotary Park. And that's actually going to, the unveiling of that particular box, because of the generous donation from the Novi Rotary, in order for us to put the 2 new boxes in the community, we're holding Rotary's meeting that day at Rotary Park at noon. And we will unveil it. We will have the artist there as well. And that way we can make sure it's a picture moment and definitely get some press related to these. The ITC Park box, I was out there today checking on it, full of great books, all different age groups. And again, they've already filled it once before, so they definitely are being used. It's a great way, in a very low-key way, to introduce literacy and to continue to get books into people's hands of all ages. So we're pretty excited, and a huge thank you to the Novi Rotary for supporting this endeavor for us and making sure that we can keep reading going. The artists, I'd like to just mention, we had a group of 3 high school students that actually decorated one of the boxes, and those artists were Caleb Forg, Josh Dilworth, and Adam Van Weemersch. And then we are currently working with Jacqueline DeCarolis from the Art Institute of Novi, also another student that will create the 3rd box that's going at Rotary Park. So it's great that we're having this community support as well, and picking locally to have the boxes created. I know that I mentioned the Friends, and again, I just want to thank them. They've been fantastic partners. This check for $25,000 that we received tonight will go towards wish list items that, when we sat down last winter and we talked budget, these were things that we kind of moved aside because we thought maybe not at this time. But thanks to the Friends, we are able to move forward with some of the projects, services, and even technology that we thought maybe we would hold out on, and that's because of them. So you will see an article tomorrow in Novi's paper. I understand it's already online. thanking them for their huge support over the last few years, over the many years, and then always coming through for us and being huge advocates. And then the Novi schools, I also sent a little article into the Novi News as well to thank our educators. We work with some fantastic teachers. Our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, R.J. Weber, Steve Matthews, a number of media specialists, and I listed for you a number of programs that just this year alone we tackled specifically with our school district. And I am very proud of this relationship because I know I've shared this before and echoed this to all of you in the past. I have worked in many school districts and never have we had the support that we get from the Novi School District and working with the library. It is amazing. I have librarians that call me. I have directors that call me and say, Julie, how did you start your relationship? How did you get that relationship to get going? And now I'm giving them my thoughts and my ideas for how they might be able to reach out and do the same, because this is huge for us when we have that kind of relationship with our school district and that we're reaching out to the families, the children, and the parents like we do, and to connect them to the library, but also to keep them connected with the school. So I'm just very proud of that partnership. Following along on page 39, there is information from Margie Karp-Oper, our Assistant Director of Public Service, and all the programs that have been going on for, this was through May, and adult and youth programs that we were involved in. We did take part in the parade. We had a table at the parade, and we saw a lot of great people participate. It's actually a great location for us because we get more foot traffic by being at the end of the parade and being right where the Civic Center is and where they hold the final ceremony for Memorial Day. So it's a great opportunity for us. So lots of great programming, and in the last couple of weeks, the youth department especially, I need to shout out to them because they've been planning and preparing, and again, they launched summer reading on Monday, and it's already a huge success. So, and I hope as adults that you're all taking part in summer reading this year as well, because it's not just for children, and you can read as adults too, and you can earn prizes from the library. So you don't have to be a kid to read. Mary Ellen Mulcrone on page 41 provides you with a building operations report. I think what's even more important is the 2 emails, which I know went out to the building and landscape committees, just informing them of where we are with some of the issues going on in the building. We did not have to move forward with the costs that we thought we would with our plumbing situation, which is fantastic. And to date, things are running very smoothly and we've not had any problems. So I'm at this point saying that that's something we probably cannot have to worry about when we talked at budget time this winter, which is wonderful and a huge cost savings to us. Page 43 brings you aware of, unfortunately, a number of trees and shrubs that we lost through the winter, obviously with it being so harsh. And I did just receive the 3rd quote today from 3 different companies for replacements, and we will be getting a building and landscaping committee meeting together probably in the next week or so we can sit down with you and get you those figures and talk a little further. Also, we did meet and Trustee Verma joined us for a tour to look at an air curtain for the library. Their recommendation being a ceiling mounted. The side level ones I don't think would be as effective as a ceiling mounted. And the last thing that we're waiting on was we had requested from the company that brought out the example of one for us to give us a location to go to so that at least we could see it working. They actually brought the unit and showed us, explained how it would be installed in our vestibule area, but we wanted to actually be able to go physically somewhere and see it, and we're waiting on that information.
So for us on an issue, it's a pressure situation, right? You have pressurized air. and
Correct,
therefore
which would
cold-
force out that would force the cold air from coming into the building, yes. Yep, and they seem to feel that that is the best route to go with that area. And I don't know, Trustee Verma, if you want to mention anything.
You said it right.
Thank you.
Then the other question is, so law of unintended consequences, if we go with something like that, will that affect the humidity or anything that'll affect the HVAC system indirectly?
Right. As far as I'm understanding, I don't believe it will.
That was the question was asked to the supplier as well as the contractor. He says it will not
Right.
affect.
Yeah, and that was
Even the
asked
motion
directly.
detector and all those which are there, it will not affect anyone.
Did they bring it to the library to display it? I know you want to
They
go
did.
see someplace where it's in operation, but I mean, did they run it with noise and that kind of thing?
They did, actually. They turned it on high. We got to actually hear the volume and how loud it was. I did not feel that it was very loud
Okay.
at all.
Not to be disruptive. Okay.
And with it being in that vestibule area, you know, you're gonna have traffic and sound anyways, but I found it to be fairly quiet. Compared to some industrial ones that I've heard, and that was my concern, is that when you walk into a larger facility like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, it's very loud. But their doors are larger also, and they're also heating such a larger area as well. But no, I didn't find it to be,
Actually, the force is not that much. When you go to Home Depot, the force is too much by the fan coming up. Here, it's not that much, but it's coming down, and it's 0.6 audible type of thing, you know.
And they could mount it on the ceiling somehow?
yes, it'll go directly into the ceiling. You won't even see it. It'll be flush with the ceiling itself.
And what, is it gas or electric, or,
It's electric.
Electric.
so we should see a surge in electric?
Probably for that, yeah, well, at least through the winter months.
It will be the next, there's the existing one on the ceiling, it will be next to
But
that.
the trade-off will be fewer space heaters that are there, right?
We hope, yes.
Saving on the heating costs.
Exactly. Yeah, and see, you're right, absolutely. Sure, not having to turn up the heat either in the building. Mhm. And also, one last thing is, when they did describe it, it will go completely the length of the door. So I believe, is that about a 7 foot?
Yes,
I think
7
is what
foot.
he, yeah.
But length is actually, what she was trying to see is if the, half the door is open or half the door, but they said, no, it will be next to that, and it will serve the purpose of what you are trying to get at.
Yeah, that main first
So
door.
what triggers it? Is it a motion detector or something?
The cold, it's the instant
It's
cold.
all the ambient temperature?
Yep, and it's directly above that first door. So as soon as
if you
it,
have a young child on the inside that likes to jump right at the entrance just to see the doors open.
it'll
and close,
run, it'll run. Yes,
You
we
can
try to
control it
detour that as
manually
much as
too.
possible. Yeah, we do. But I do think we're moving in the direction. We just wanted to see if we could go out and see something.
I echo your comments, by the way. I'm backing up a little bit on the Friends and what a great relationship that is. Just to clarify, the 25,000 from them, is that treated separately and above and beyond what is budgeted?
Yes, it is. These are, and that's why we call it a wish list. It's things above and beyond the budget that we have looked at.
Well, since the topic was broached.
Sure.
Then it begs the question, we're recognizing the revenue current fiscal year, but the expenditure will be charged the next fiscal year?
No, you mean for this?
Yes,
Yes, it comes in,
yes.
does.
So it goes into 269.
it will go into 269.
Right.
Correct,
Okay, and make 269 look like a hero.
yes.
And then next year, well, the reason it's germane, because we have to talk about a budget, right?
Right. It shouldn't, we're trying really hard to work with them to write their checks. Well, I should back up. This 25,000, to be quite honest, we won't see it. We're gonna try and get them to write as much of it out of their accounts and it not come through the library. It's being given, but I think they're gonna hold on to it and we'll run it so that their auditing purpose and they're paying, if it's coming from them directly, then it'll come out of their accounts. Unless
So
we.
we're not gonna capitalize any of the
We-
benefit that we get,
We
right?
probably will not. Yeah, this is the first time. We have in the past. This is the first time that I think for the most part, they're gonna hold on to it for, for when it needs to be paid.
And again, just to clarify, if I can,
But it is on top of budget, yeah.
so we won't see on these reports the 25,000 of revenue, nor if you buy 25,000 worth of supplies, we won't see that on the supply line either. So it is totally
Correct.
off the book.
It is, but during budget time, you saw the list of what was the wish list and what will be purchased with that money. So you already know ahead of time.
I
Yes.
understand.
Invoices will be paid out of this for the wish list and directly, but the city will be looking into this, or who will be controlling this?
This money,
Yeah.
it'll be the Friends. The Friends will control it.
Okay, the friends will be paying.
For the most part, unless I have to cut a check differently than what's needed, it'll pretty much come from them if we can do it.
And if you do, you'll get reimbursed, so
Yes.
it'll be an
we-
in and out. and that
Correct, it's an
sums
in and
up.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep. Okay, any other questions that I can entertain? I'm gonna keep moving. Pages 44. 44 actually shows you to date where we are with 1 month left. We've issued 3,974 cards this past year. In the month of May, 322 cards were issued. We checked out 60,090 items. Right now, we're totaling 722,681 items that have been checked out of the library to date. So some fantastic numbers. Continuing to borrow and loan at high volumes as well. And then you see the read box just below, and we'll start to give you numbers for that as we go through the months. The read boxes will be available June through October. So you'll see those letting you know how many books that we actually put in. And this is on a weekly basis that we fill it up. Page 45 shows you, again, circulation and then how it's broken down by our self-check units, the top graph. Bottom is library usage in general. And if you look to the bottom to the right, 362,450 people so far have come through our doors.
I don't mean to throw rain on your parade here.
Do we have a boo-boo?
No, you don't have a boo-boo.
Oh, good.
But the staff does amazing things. And when we set goals, they tend to achieve them. With respect to the self-check percentage,
Yep.
that's one goal. We just haven't been able to get over the
Change.
threshold.
Yep.
We've been in this 55 to 60% range for years, for
Since
our
we,
last couple
yeah,
years.
since we opened the doors.
Yeah, and the goal was to be north of 60%.
Yes, it is.
So do we need to change our perspective, or is there
I
something
think
we
we have
can
to
do
focus a little
educate-
more. I think that department, and we can continue to do that. It actually will take us, I think we need to get back out there and work with the patrons more one-on-one to show them. You know, we did that at the very beginning, getting people used to and utilizing the self-check on their own, and I think that's what it is. It's just reminding them, we have it, you can do it, you don't have to wait in line. And actually, with summer reading, this was probably a good time to do some of that. So it is, it's just a reminder with the staff. And I think we can change that. It's changing culture, changing the way people use the library.
When I was working on one Monday, the lines were backing up at the counter, and I just mentioned to some people, have you ever used the checkouts there? You'd save yourself a lot of time. Some of them said, well, we'd rather just use,
Yep.
we don't like the machines, we'd rather use the people, and, but some
Some
did
do.
go over and use the machines.
And one of the things that I think deters people too is if you're paying a fine and you don't want to use a debit card, you're paying cash. So then they're moving over anyway. So they just assume get into line and into the line and no. But you're absolutely right. It is just introducing it to the public again from the staff side. So we're at about 362,454 visits to the library, which is amazing. We're definitely going to exceed that from last year, with 1 month to go, so that's pretty exciting. And we're averaging 1,100, just over 1,100 people daily in the building.
How is that, those numbers arrived at, Julie?
Well, it's a calculation, Barb.
You're-
She's probably dividing the amount of people,
Like, how do you know that roughly 33,000 people came in May?
those,
Are those people who have checked out books, or just people who come in and go out?
you mean, the 32, that's an actual door count. We get a physical door count, from people that come in the building. So we're taking that count actually
Oh.
through the gates,
Oh,
the
okay.
automated gates at the door. So that's an accurate number.
So at face value, for 11 months, we've got more days open and more hours for 11 months than we did for the entire 12-month period last year. Which is why the daily average declined.
Right. Yep. And then June with our Sundays, adding that in, so that's changing it a little bit. Okay, page 46, computer logins. So it's just showing you how the usage is going when it comes to our public workstations, our wireless. As you can see, our wireless from a year ago, huge usage on wireless, and people lending laptops went up a little bit again, so that's definitely increased. And daily average use when it comes to the computers, definitely much higher from a year ago. A year ago, it was 890, and with 1 month to go, we're at 1,303. So doing very well. Page 47, these are the early literacy workstations and the usage that's going on there, and again, doing very well compared to a year ago and with 1 month left. Page 48 is our technology training sessions and all the different classes and impromptu sessions that we're holding. 49 are our 3 downloadable services. Freegal, which is free and legal music. Overdrive is our ebooks and reference books, and then Zinio is our magazines. So all of those are doing very well in terms of usage, and we continue to promote them. Page 50 is our charging station usage. So it's gone down, it's going down, and I think we had hoped it would go up, and that was, working with the city to put that and make that available. And then meeting rooms, and I know that you had already made a comment, Trustee Margolis, on our meeting room usage, so we're going like gangbusters with that. And then page 51 is our library app and the usage that we have had. I can tell you that we just got some information and we'll begin investigating texting reference questions and receiving those types of questions, and that possibly could come through our app service. So that'll be another way for people to get a hold of us and connect with us if they have questions. Looking at page 52, that moves into the Historical Commission report. The Friends did not have any meeting minutes to provide to me, so I did not include. But in the Historical Commission, you have meetings from March 26th and April 16th. And really just to keep you up to date, the Motor City Markers project, that actually, we just heard this week that the presentation boards have been received. So they're currently with Roy Prentice right now, and we'll be looking at installation in the city probably in the next month or so for those to be installed. There's 8 of them total that will go throughout the community. So that we'll make sure that you are aware of, and hopefully create some marketing and buzz around that particular new project. And that is all I have. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Quiet bunch on that one. Okay, excuse me. Next item on the agenda, Student Representatives Report.
So, this month, Teen Space was held 20 times with 657 attendees, and 9 board members attended our Teen Advisory Board meetings, and we had 4 volunteers who helped with various programs. So, new officers for Teen Advisory Board. I know we all have the same last name, but we're not related. And we're not corrupt in any way. And then after that, Teen Book Club had 7 attend their meeting on May 17th, and 14 teens attended the WOW College Writing Workshop. And upcoming events, summer reading program already started, volunteer orientation June 2nd and 4th, and tie-dye day June 17th, which was yesterday.
They had a huge turnout, over 80
Wow.
students showed up for the tie-dye program yesterday to do tie-dye, and thank goodness the weather held out for them because it's an outdoor project. We don't want the tie-dye in the library, so it happens outside. And also, I know that we have close to 100 teen volunteers that have signed up to be volunteers for the summer to help us with the program. So again, very successful when it comes to our teenagers getting involved and giving up their time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next agenda item is committee reports. I think we probably have two committees that need to report out this month. First, the Finance Committee. Deputy, Trustee Margolis? Or is that you, Julie?
Included in the minutes, part of the consent agenda, was the content, the agenda and the minutes from that Finance Committee meeting. You need me to reread that?
No, as long as there's no other additional comments, we can skip through that.
No, I think we're prepared to make recommendations for board action, which you have slated.
Okay. And then we already discussed the emails from Mary Ellen Mulcrone then.
We did.
Okay. Okay, then next topic is public comment. This is a second opportunity for members of the public to approach the board with anything they'd like to share. Simply ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Seeing none. The next topic is matters for board discussion. We really don't have matters at this time, so we'll just go ahead and move right into matters for board action. The first one being renaming of the 269 Walker Fund to the 269 Library Contribution Fund.
Yes, this was a recommendation that came from the Finance Committee. I actually met with the city to make sure that there would be no red flags or any concerns about a renaming. And the only thing you'll see, if you choose to vote and rename it to be called the 269 Library Contributed Funds Account, it will have a parenthesis and will say former Walker after it. And that is, they use it for historical purposes so that they can keep track of it. That's the one thing. When we report, we do not have to have that. It's just in their reporting functions, it will have a parenthesis in that information following the title. But we can go ahead and, when I do those reports and bring them to you, they won't have that in there. It'll just say 269 contributed funds. But for historical purposes, they said they needed to keep that little bit of information. I got that today. So, but we are approving it as this tonight and can.
Who initiated that to change this to 269 library?
The finance, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to give you some of the rationale. The Fund 269 was assigned by the city, just as they assigned 268 for library operations. So those were internal administrative funds that they maintain. Now, the reason I advocated going away from the Walker Fund name is that the contract has expired. The designated intended use of those funds originally were for the facility itself. And then we amended the contract with the permission of the Walker family to allow flexibility, if need be, for those funds to be used to offset any deficits for operational. Well, luckily, our predecessors on prior boards were able to not have to access those funds. So they've just been sitting and compounding, not as much as we would like, obviously, over the last few years. But the intent going forward is we don't create sinking funds for future capital outlays, but we are required when we budget to account for capital expenditure outlays as part of our operational expenditure budget. So we wanted anybody that had the opportunity to provide funds for a designated purpose of their choosing, we would respect that designation. So they're contributing funds for the library for a special purpose, and then we will use those funds for that special purpose, unless they say, you know what, it's totally unrestricted, use it as you see fit. So we're going to maintain two separate funds. 268 is going to be our primary operating fund, and it will still have small gifts and donation and other fundraising activities in it that can be used to offset any operational expenditures. 269 will be a combination of designated and non-designated funds contributed by outside parties or potential corporate sponsors or whatever, and then we will determine when the appropriate time comes, if we have any major capital expenditures, repaving the parking lot, replacing the roof, elevator repair, or whatever, we'll draw from that fund, so that was the intent.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more important point. If you recall from prior dialogues, we had looked at alternate means on investing funds. And if we deemed that Fund 269 wouldn't be needed for a longer period of time, perhaps we could look at alternate investments. And we didn't want to commingle into one library fund. That would make things more difficult. Did I say that right?
Right. With the idea being that there may be some interpretation down the road that you could invest contributed funds different than you could invest, let's say, tax funds that came from tax revenue, property tax revenue, or something like that. So we thought it was important to keep contributed funds in a separate, category, in a separate pool, so they would never be property tax revenues in that fund. That if we decide, for example, someday down the road to invest in like a community fund or something like that, that the argument could be made, these aren't tax dollars, but these are contributions that came from various individuals, and, its historical name was Walker, because that's where most of the money came from.
Correct.
Dave, on a going forward basis, will any of the money in Fund 269 be restricted or dedicated?
Absolutely, and that's the second part of the recommendation. The director has recommended we simplify the categorization within Fund 269 so that we have, for lack of a better word, buckets of similar type expenditure needs. And we would then restrict or designate a portion of the fund for that intended use, and anything then non-designated or unrestricted would be available for future designation.
And who makes the determination to pull the funds out of 269, either dedicated or not dedicated?
As the funds are contributed, we will negotiate and reaffirm with the donor what their intended use is, so that we respect their wishes. So it's clear on their part, if they want feedback, so what did you do with the money that I gave you? We can document it.
Right.
But also internally, we know that that was the intention, and we want to honor that intention. In addition,
For non-restricted funds, who's calling that shot?
well, if you recall at the last meeting, the city asked that we create a separate budget for 269, focusing more on the expenditure authorization. So we as a board will make those determinations within the budget parameters, and then we'll direct the director and staff then how to implement that without exceeding those parameters.
In my meeting today, they were not ready, we weren't there yet to bring you the 2014-15 proposed 269 contributed funds budget. They asked if it could wait until we closed out of June, then they'd have better numbers for everything to finish up, and then we can bring you those numbers to be approved at the July meeting for that 269 account for the year. And I didn't have a problem with that. I was given the sheet today of, I had started the process where I told them which accounts should fall under which buckets, as you say. And there were things that have to be looked at and were incorrect that I've got to correct with them and send back. So we're in the process of cleaning that all up, and I will be bringing you a budget in July for 269.
Any other questions on that one? Okay. Can I have a motion? Would be a motion to rename the 269
I was
Walker
waiting to be
Fund?
recognized.
Sorry. All right. Trustee Margolis.
I'll second the motion. Let Trustee
What's the
Berman-
motion?
Oh,
All right, so we have, so did you get that? We've got it, okay, who's got the motion on the table now?
trustee Vern was recognized.
Trustee Verma. Do you want to put a motion on the table?
Yes, you asked for that. I said, yeah, I move the motion.
Okay. So the motion is for the renaming of the 269 Walker Library Fund to the 269 Library Contribution, Contributed Funds.
Contributed funds.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, see if I can make this one go a little bit smoother.
Okay.
Next item, 4 matters of board action. This is a little time sensitive. I know usually we like to have discussion beforehand. But we do have some, we do have to start working on the 2015 calendar. So
That is correct.
Julie, why don't you kick off the discussion on this one, please?
So I'm bringing you some dates to consider for the library being closed. I looked at all of the dates actually through the 2015 calendar, and the only 2 that come up that seem like we should have a conversation is July 4th next year, 2015, will fall on a Saturday, and then Sunday the 5th. And, yeah, it's about time. And, we have to close this July 4th, it's a Friday, but we're reopening over the weekend. I felt that was okay because we're taking a weekday away from patrons, so to be opening on, on the 5th, on that Friday, or on that Saturday, I'm okay with. With it falling directly on the weekend, I'm anticipating people will probably go away. There won't be a lot of usage. I can tell you that Memorial Weekend, it was pretty quiet, and it tends to be even quieter when it comes to July 4th. So I'm looking to see if the board would approve closing July 4th and 5th, Saturday and Sunday of 2015. The other thing to consider is in October 2015, we've been asked already, to host a reception for the Michigan Library Association Conference, which will be held here in Novi at the Suburban Collection Showcase. We've been advocates, and very much myself and my staff have been very involved in the Michigan Library Association. And I think it's an honor that they've asked us to host the event. It would be a closed event, though, just to the attendees of the conference, which means we would be looking to close the library, and they haven't decided on the night that they do their annual reception for the conference. It'll either be Wednesday, the 16th, or Thursday, the 17th of October. What I'm looking for is that you would grant that closure at 5 o'clock on that day, being either Wednesday or Thursday. We'd close at 5 that day and then resume regular business hours the following day, but just so that we can hold that particular reception. We want to hold it and use the entire building and not just the meeting room, because we're looking at probably close to 300 or 400 people that could potentially be attending. Yes.
The reception will be in the library?
The reception will be at the library.
What type of reception will be? Is it dinner or what?
No, it's typically hors d'oeuvres, music, an opportunity from people from all around the state of Michigan, library people, to see our facilities. So we'll be able to give tours and really show off our building to the entire state. It's pretty
No,
exciting.
only the reception is here, but otherwise all this thing will be going on?
Yes, only the reception. It's an evening reception where we invite the attendees of the conference to come over and have hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, and it's an evening specifically for them. And they do have to be Michigan Library Association members to come to that event that night.
Yeah, but otherwise.
Everything else to be held at Suburban.
Suburban.
Correct.
How these people will be coming? They have their own cars, another thing, or what?
Yes, they do. It's something that we typically pay for too when we go to conference. It would be the annual conference, and each library sends people and pays for them to
So
be
what you
attending.
are asking is only one day
Correct.
we should close 5 o'clock
At
so
5
that
o'clock.
reception can be.
Yes. And then you would all be invited, as I would like you to be there that evening if you can. So I can try to, if you want to mark the 16th and 17th of 2015 in your calendar as placeholders.
We were wondering if you were going to invite us. So now
Well,
we got that.
I
now
have
we
to
got
show
that
you
clear.
all off.
Yeah, now that we got that clear.
Absolutely.
And closing at 5 gives you enough time to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Typically, we'll be able to set up for the most part. Food would be the only thing coming in at the last minute, so I'm confident.
Liquor license and everything.
I'm sorry?
Liquor license?
Liquor
Oh,
license.
liquor license, yes, that'll all be handled through the association and through the conference committee, yes.
Anyone else with questions?
And what is this fourth of the other days you are talking? So this we understand now, this will be one of the evening, and July 4th and 5th, you want to close both days?
I don't think we'll have very high attendance on those days. With it falling on the actual weekend, I don't believe we'll be that busy.
Julie, this isn't a complete list of 2015 closures. Do we generally approve the entire closure schedule from?
We typically do. I try to bring you everything at once, just so we can have that conversation. That's why I did look ahead, and I don't foresee any other dates that we would need to be closing for 2015 except these. I looked at the Christmas holidays, the New Year holidays, and how everything fell. Those are all through the week. We'll just be taking those days off and resuming. It's typically when it comes to a weekend that you'll see less. And another example, Christmas will fall on a weekend in a couple of years, and it just makes sense because you're not gonna see someone, come out on.
So wouldn't the request though today be to give us a complete 2015 closure schedule for us to approve, including?
Oh,
these?
do you, no, not necessarily. I mean, what I can do then is, you typically don't approve it. It's already,
that's why I was
they're
asking,
already,
so-
yes, they're already approved. They're already set dates and holidays that we already close. This would be an addition to this year.
So the addition would be July 5th because
would
it
be.
falls on a Sunday this year.
Yes, the 4th
As well
is-
as closing the evening of either the 16th or
Correct.
17th.
Correct.
All right. And that would be on top of
Our
our
normal.
normal closing schedule.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions?
I guess my comment is, probably from past, I'm a bit reluctant to close any more days than possible. I really like being open as much as we can. But I'm very conscious of a couple things. One, our cost, and if we're closed a day, that's expenses that we save. And I respect very much the staff's advice to us as a board on days that there will be low attendance in terms of days. So in terms of picking those days that we think there's going to be low attendance, I respect that recommendation very much. So, and likewise, not because of a cost factor, not because of an attendance factor, but I think it's very appropriate to be hosting at the library a reception for the Michigan Library Association, whether it be October 16 or 17. I would recommend that we adopt this recommendation from the staff, and I certainly will support it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, so the question on the table would be to approve closure of the library July 5th of 2015, as well as the evening of either October 16th or 17th of 2015, at the discretion of the director. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next topic, executive session. So just want everyone to recall that Julie has requested that her annual review be done in closed session during our last meeting. So with that, we'll now be going in executive session for the purpose of the director's annual review. We will not reconvene in regular session for any additional business, so we will adjourn immediately after this executive session. I'd just like to ask my predecessor here, do we need a roll call vote to go into executive session?
We should have a vote on that. We should have.
Okay. For the sake of clarity, how about if we just ask the secretary to do a roll call vote for that?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Now, we
Roll
have to
call
vote.
vote. Yeah, no, we need a roll call vote to agree to go in executive
Oh,
session.
you know what, Willie, I think we should have a vote. I didn't necessarily mean it had to be a roll call vote.
Okay,
I
fair
believe
enough.
it's a vote. We vote on executive session. I don't believe it has to be a roll call vote.
Okay, then, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.